together, and that is the real fun part. So this is where it starts getting real in your future as well. So it's a great opportunity to think along the lines what you want to do as well in the future as a project manager and where your responsibility may lie. Yeah. So, I mean, as the title suggests, we have to marry somehow sustainability with project management, in particular sustainable development. So that is kind of the first part that we are looking at. And then we could kind of look at current developments in sustainability in project management, where that has gone, and what that actually means as well. So we do the whole loop once around, and I hope that it will resonate. And then the coming weeks, you will have Perla, and at the end we look actually at very applied tools that are process specific for project management. Yeah, but we start actually with that today in this seminar. Okay. So as already said, we start by the traditional project management a little bit, look at sustainable development, general underlying trends, and then we bring it together. Sustainability in project management, and what does sustainable project management maybe look like? Let's see. Yeah. So traditionally, project management, and I have kind of alluded to that already in a lot of detail, so we will fly quite quickly through it, is often defined by the synonyms of time, quality, and cost. Depending on your preferences, you may define this triangle as scope, or you have turned it inside out and quality is replaced against scope, which means that you have an inherent quality defined by time and cost and scope probably. Now with this, you arrive of course at our traditional definitions, and that is a recap. So we had that already in project, program and portfolio management in quite some detail. And I told you as well why there's a shift at the moment, and that shift translates, here's a little bit the history really where the shift is coming from. So traditionally it was an individual or collaborative enterprise planned and designed to achieve an aim. So it's an intent, really. And we had as well the professional bodies. So you can go with PMI, which is probably the largest across the world, still really fighting with Prince2 at the moment, in the Champions League of standardizing the profession of project management. And they came up with that. A temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. And we can mirror that again with the APM, just to bring it a little bit closer to home. A unique transient endeavor undertaken to achieve a desired outcome, and the transition really being here part of the game. Yeah. And this was a really good start that originated kind of was up to date to 2006, 2009. In the UK, we started already adjusting a little bit the definitions more recently, so we had the stakeholder notion emerging in. But for us as a project manager, it was really then, so what is project management? The application of knowledge, skills, tools and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. And you notice as well, not the PMI, but in the APM book, the professional definition has changed here already to the stakeholder management. But I still have here the old one, which was the predetermined really for the movement of marrying in sustainability. So here focusing on the process by which projects are defined, planned, monitored, controlled and delivered so that agreed benefits are realized. So it's a process, right? So they give you here the process stages that they expect you to deliver to and with this achieve actually benefits. So or realize them really as a terminology. So if you analyze this in a little bit depth, you will come to a feeling, particularly if you look at the context of the organization of project management, you will see it's a projection. So it's something that is removed. So the underlying idea of project management are very powerful. It's short-term oriented. If you use project management, you can succeed. yeah, particularly on short-term goals. This is very apparent. You plan actually for it. Yeah, you manage the process to achieve your project delivery. Yeah. So there's as well a temporality, which means that it ends. And then there is a focus on cost, scope. We had that already. Maybe scope is quality. There's a different emphasis. And the quality is often assessed at the end of the project delivery. So it's again short term. Then it's often fact-based. Yeah, we often try to measure. We try to monitor as well. It's top down. Yeah, so the hierarchy in most project management levels is focused on decision making at some point. Yeah, so the governance frame alludes to that. It's often, I said already, transient, linear. What is IRR? Internal rate of return. You may have heard it. Yeah. No? So this is kind of when you come to evaluations, you may have monetary value, but you have as well asset value. You may have values that you've achieved. You have a bigger customer base. The customer doesn't actually go from contract anymore. You go into pre-qualified contractor, for example. Yeah? This may be a value that you try to achieve, and you can as well monetize it and give it a value in your calculation and how well you're doing. But we come to that later in a little bit more detail. What is NPV? Yes, net present value. Yeah, exactly. So it's another hardliner that tells us how well we are doing in terms of costing and achieving the values that we have subscribed to. Yeah, and it's narrow. Yeah, we don't try to necessarily achieve everything. It's project based. Yeah, so we actually quite insistent that we shouldn't go beyond the scope. Yeah? This is a very important underlining in the project management. Yeah? So if you look at it, project management is important because projects and project management are a crucial activity of organizations. Actually, in today's societies, most of the business is operated by projects, which is quite fascinating if you think about it. Yeah? So projects are the business of doing business nowadays. This was not always so. Yeah? Projects are how organizations deliver products, services, and change very often. Yeah? Sometimes it's programified or they go with other methods, but often the implementation is still project-driven, which is quite interesting. And projects are often about change. So project management clearly has a role, no doubt. You will believe me that, I hope. But then we have to marry it somehow with this other count. It's a sustainable development agenda. And here, well, I don't know why, but I was fascinated by the globe in the light bulb. The sustainable development, in its most simple definition, came from Brundtland, and they pointed out, or he pointed out, that development that meets the needs of the present. Yeah, and the present, this is kind of this is an implicit subject. Yeah, present. So if it's sustainable, then it means economy, yeah, society, and ecology or environment. They are depending on how you want to interpret that. Yeah. So the present needs, yeah, without compromising the ability of the future generations. And here we have again the three kind of sustainability bottom lines that we'll come to in a second, to meet their own needs. Yeah? So this is actually quite tricky to consider this as well in the project setting. Yeah? So this means our definitions may be actually on a confrontation room. Yeah? And if you go with a professional body or the institute that was kind of founded around this, you can see a little bit more enriched definition. So they have already adapted it actually to business needs, and you will see that actually in the definition. So they really define it as adapting business strategies and activities that meet the needs of the enterprise and its stakeholders today while protecting, sustaining, and enhancing the human and natural resources that will be needed in the future. So there you can see there are already the stakeholders that is where project management went with their APM. Yeah. And sustainable development has really become the integral part of the triple bottom line, that is often what it's famous for. So kind of the environmental notion, depending on which book you read, you may have here ecology as well, then the economy, and then the society, or that differs respectively as well a little bit in the terminology depending which book you're reading. Yeah. Now, the underlying topics here kind of focus very much, well actually the dominance is really on environment, but there's certainly as well the notion of society. There's as well a generation notion, and life cycle, product cycle, or even usability life cycle that are actually in it. Then precautionary, there's a health notion, there's a impact notion of spatiality, and it's bottom up. It's driven by people, it's involving the planet, it's long term, and it's complex. Yeah, so that is actually quite, and it's systematic. Yeah, so it knocks on. There's causalities involved with the system. Yeah. And TBL, what is TBL? Yeah, triple bottom line. Yeah, so this was again the social, economic, and environmental. Yeah. So those are the drivers. And if we now compare it, this is an easy thing to do for an academic. Oh yeah, sorry. First, why we needed actually the sustainability. Well, you have already made a very strong case in the seminar, so I don't have to convince you too much here. But the choices we make today affect the future. There's a recognition of that. And maintaining ecosystem services without which we cannot survive, creating a more equitable and just society, and sustaining human development. Yeah? So that is kind of an underlying driver of the sustainability. Now we can of course confront that, and this comes from a paper. You can see that project management has a lot of versus sustainability applications. So if you compare the little list that I had, so there's short-term oriented versus long-term oriented, sponsors, narrow stakeholders versus current and future generations. So this means our stakeholders are very, so you kind of have to find a way of guessing what they will need. So it's very difficult to kind of interview or consult with future generations. Yeah? This gets quite difficult. Yeah? Then deliverable, result-oriented versus life-cycle-oriented. Actually, I'm saying this as a contrast. We have already project management. A lot of industries have already embraced like a product life cycle focus too, because they have noticed that is quite important. Yeah. Then you have scope, time and budget versus people, planet and profit. Reduced complexity, this is our project again, to be able to live it, versus increasing complexity and appreciating the interconnections. Yeah. Top-down decision making versus consensus bottom-up. So there are even governance contradictions. And one is fact-based versus the other one precautionary. So we don't yet know. There's just a recognition that we may go in the wrong direction. Let's be careful. Yeah, and one is, of course, linear and Mathematica analysis versus systematic approach on ecosystem consideration. And again, one is like kind of let's call it simplified return on investment versus triple bottom line, interested in sustaining the resources. Yeah. So we clearly have a dilemma if you confront both topics like that. But at the same time, we have a lot of champions from the project management community that are actually making a strong statement for it. So I've given you as well a YouTube video from the PMI, so a Project Management Institute, on the e-learning portal if you want to see it actually. So this is just a quote out of that talk. So Gregory Ballast, he's the ex-president and CEO of the Project Management Institute, and he's a very passionate champion of project management. I mean, those institutions are kind of marketing agency for the profession, simplified if you want. So project managers need to consider environmental and social constraints as part of the planning process and identify risk, challenges, opportunities to the company before the project is launched. Notice here, he creates risks and then says risk associated challenges and opportunities. So this is as well a potential engine for you to perform better the projects than what you may otherwise would have available to you. Yeah. Mary McKinley, she is as well our external examiner here, so she will as well be around on the 9th of November if you want to meet her. She normally gives as well a guest talk, so I hope she does this year too. So she is really a German professor of project management in UC Lille and president of the IPM and many other titles. So she has a long-standing history as well in the profession of project management, and has been, those of you that are involved in the International Project Management Association, she is the vice president at the moment of that institute. Yeah? So, and she pointed out as well, like particular working with practitioners and overlooking large programs. The further development of the project management profession requires project managers to take responsibility for sustainability. So there is clearly a plea for you to take this serious and to take it forward. And then last but not least, Academy of Sustainable Communities, Mind the Gap. Delivery of sustainable communities will depend on embedding principles and understanding in the approach to project management and amongst project management professionals. Yeah, so they tie it very clearly that communities do actually require you to consider that. Yeah. Now this is quite a big burden. Yeah. So now we have to strap that on our on our back here as a rucksack or something and work with it. So this is where another hint, and that came actually from the Tim. I think it's Tim Taylor. From Taylor, he pointed out project managers are actually ideally placed to make contributions to sustainability practices, and particularly the intersection with client and sponsor. So this is really a strong front-end approach if you can get involved there. Yeah, so that is kind of the background, what we need to consider. But so where are we now with sustainability in project management? Well, we move gradually forward, and the good piece of advice is written in some books, yeah, so that there are actually practical guides to it, if you want. Yeah, and we are moving now into green projects. There's a building a body of knowledge that goes into that. Current research is still quite scattered. So you see a working external research project. So it's an International Journal of Project Management that has a special issue for it. So you're kind of way ahead of them, which is good. You have here a clear market advantage. So if you look at the academia, there are few people that drive it as well in academia. It's even me and my colleagues that are quite active there. But if you look at it, the majority of incentives comes actually from industry. They see a clear benefit in it. Yeah? And so the integration of sustainability principles within project management is really kind of seen as something that is, not Tom Taylor was the name, so there you go. But is really seen as a key essential for being more successful in project management. Yeah? Now, with this, we come to the sustainable project management, and that is the juicy part. So this is actually a quote that comes from the paper that I wrote with Alex. So I guess it's our quote, but what we have done is, and you will see it's not very advanced, we have just combined basically the sustainable agenda with the project management agenda. Yeah? So you see it then as sustainable project is an endeavor undertaken to achieve a desired transient outcome whilst protecting and sustaining and enhancing the human and natural resources required for future generations to meet their needs. That doesn't mean that you will not use any resources, but it means that you can put risk management tools and monitoring tools in place at the planning stage that allow you the monitoring of resource use, for example. So you can then as well look at efficiency, effectiveness of use. And that is normally directly, it's very easy to measure, and normally it translates directly into cost savings or as well internal rate of return, by actually using maybe accurately the materials that you need versus normal predictions of surplus material that you book because of thresholds that you have. Yeah. So that is kind of where we try to go. There are as well sustainable project cost examples where this is applied already. So this is actually still the hard tools, return on investment versus using the direct investment versus not considering sustainability and the implication of asset value. So here, sustainable project management focuses on continually improving the environmental and sustainability of the resources consumed on the project. And a very important point as well is really that you take it actually forward and you show as well how the maybe more cost in the project will actually allow you to reduce operational costs. We come to that in a second. We had as well the wonderful Olympics in London. Yeah, that gave us a new term. Those of you that have watched a lot of television, they may have heard of legacy versus sustainability debate. It's fascinating, yeah. But I mean, actually, before I jump on, one important point for me was as well that cutting the costs, although very tempting on a project level, often impacts on the use. Yeah? And this is very true as well for our university. If you have seen this egg-shaped building with a metal frame and glass and kind of across the road, it's our business school, law school, and I think the design school sits as well there. And the whole idea was to make it actually an infrastructure that works with the sun and allows natural light to radiate into the rooms to heat the building. Yeah, and in the end, they were very tempted to go with value engineering, and it was really quantity surveyor saying, like, you know what, if we drop all the engines of the panels that move up and down, we save a substantial amount of money. And they did this. Now you have this strange facade that kind of surrounds this building that is of no use whatsoever. And they've increased operational energy costs. Yeah? And the sad truth is, they still did it, even at the university. It shows you that our project management lecturers were not involved in the decision making, sadly. Yeah, but the point is, there's still quite a lot of practice around where it goes wrong. Yeah, and the implications are so visible. Yeah, we have increased energy costs in that building. Yeah, and dysfunctional lighting. Yeah.
So, how much influence do project managers have on the sustainability of a project? Because obviously, we're involved with the implementation rather than the aspects of the project itself. For example, the business school. The project manager would have very little to do with the influence of sustainable aspects of design, for example.
Yeah. So you have a good point there. So the design was actually kind of a competition. So architects basically had different designs, and the best design won basically first. Actually, it's a second design. I shouldn't really go into details there. But the point is, the winning overall design was actually implemented, and it's a concept. And they run over cost, as you would expect. Yeah, the initial estimate was very quickly 20% over cost, and that was kind of the cost threshold. But then they compromised the design, so basically they said, like, okay, where can we cut cost? And not ordering the engines was an easy thing to do. Yeah? But at the same time, you can't compromise the use, yeah? and now they have higher energy costs. So what they should have done, if they would have been a little bit smarter, we own the buildings here as well, yeah? We have as well our real estate. It doesn't make sense. It's an asset of the university. It doesn't make sense to cut the engines. You have now higher energy costs. Half of the lecturers and academic staff are blind because they're blinded by sun, and the others sit in the shade. Yeah? This was not how it was meant to be. So as a project manager, we should as well go the extra mile and say, like, yes, we can cut the cost here, but consider not cutting it because it's more first of all, you have the credibility, and you have actually energy cost savings. You know? So this is then the evaluation that you have to do. Yeah? And if you present it that way to your client, I haven't seen many clients that cut it then nonetheless. Yeah, but this wasn't presented that way. They just showed the costs posts that were next in line. It's very easy if you have the workflow, and the packages by cost, easy presented. You draw it out and say, okay, here those are still very flexible. and this is what they went for. It's sad. So yeah, but very good questions. Yeah? So the power is there. It's this way a question of presentation.
So there is the potential for that level of involvement.
Yeah,
influence.
certainly influence, yeah, or making the client aware. So there is as well an impact from you as a project manager in affecting the behavior of your client. Yeah? So you want to inform him as well that he is not then standing there like, look, our building, and then everybody walks past like me and says like, yeah, but the engines is not working. It's unfunctional.
So I presume that the university went to the competition with we want a sustainable building with long-term energy efficiency and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in the end, they then compromised the original spec to save potentially a tiny amount in terms of the long term.
Well, wasn't that small? Yeah, but long term, you're spot on.
It's a phenomenal investment, if you like, that they removed.
Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah. So they really removed actually the conceptual or why they set out to build it that way. Yeah, they compromised that actually quite deeply at the root, which is a pity.
A bit like a bridge, isn't it? Not a bridge.
Yeah. Let's not go too much somewhere. Yeah, but that's true. Yeah, the bridge has as well certain issues. But yeah, so there is as well the implication of that, and this was kind of formalized. I mean, in academic literature, we have the legacy part already since 2003, kind of hyped up. But in kind of project management terms, the Olympics were really the driver and kind of the popularity of considering the legacy of your actual projects that you have. May it be a product, may it be a service. Yeah, how does the project as what it's delivering impact on the legacy of what is delivered? This is where project legacy, but that's something else. Yeah? So the legacy of the product or service that you're doing, how can we actually plan that we achieve that? Yeah? Many industries will do that already. It comes often in forms of guarantees. It comes maybe with liabilities. Do you have an example maybe of that? How could we make such a promise in terms of legacy at the project level?
Project manager, you could accountability by percentage, percentage of the return.
Yeah, exactly.
That way you're presenting yourself and you're involved for the future, not just for the now.
Yeah, very good example. Yeah, accountability over the future usage or running time. Yeah, and as a project manager, you could do that, for example, in monetary terms. Yeah, or you could even do it in maybe looking after it, maintenance. Yeah. So there are many. We have it actually in most products. It's just in large projects that we normally don't consider it that way. Yeah. So, for example, with a boiler, if you buy a new boiler, you get normally a guarantee of 5 to 7 years, as I learned recently. I needed a new boiler. So anyway, but so it's already implicit in a lot of products, yeah. But that is a strong driver. And here you often have as well the possibility to use really environmental, social, and economic impacts as a risk indicator, as a threat to your actual performance. So monitor it closely, but at the same time as an opportunity to build closer relationships, to have a greater impact maybe in future projects, or reputation, you name it. Okay. And that is really kind of one way to integrate sustainability. Yeah. I mean, still, I think in most projects, as a project manager in particular, you may have a handover here at the closeout stage, but if you're planning for the legacy, if you make, for example, so what could that be? So in automotive, we have actually a test lab where we check the car for durability, and project managers are held accountable if it's a new design and you don't actually hit all the criteria. You have very sophisticated infrastructure. If you're interested, there's a documentation on BBC iPlayer at the moment. You can probably spend a lot of time on that. I see there are 4 series of 1.5 hours each. It's quite intense, but they show you how automotive kind of works. In buildings, it may be building physics. So you check air tightness, you have a look how the energy performance is, if it actually works as a system. In aerospace or turbines, for example, for a plane, you actually bring it to a facility, strap it on a wing. Well, the wing facility, it's really just a structure, to be fair, and then fire it once up and stop it and fire it up again. And you see if the turbine shows certain levels of vibration and performance or something like that. So there are different ways of doing this, but this is what we kind of plan into the kind of front end of our project. So if we don't plan it in, if it's a hit and run, I shouldn't really use that example, but if it's like here and liabilities are gone, then we have it as well kind of systematically in our project lifecycle respectively. Yeah. Now, the project life cycle of sustainability, and this is kind of academics trying to make sense of what few companies already do that are perceived to be very good at this, is actually the integration of the project life cycle with the product life cycle. And I think most of you will have probably already come across it, but maybe not in a conceptual level. That is really so the project cycle of sustainability can be defined as a complete cycle of the project, which we have here, and I've again used a different terminology here. So you have kind of the project ideation, so this is the idea, then the planning phase, then the manufacturing phase, and then the project deployment phase. And here you start considering already the product purchase, and you work backwards. So you think about, okay, what is the product being used for? How will the product be disposed? Or is there an exchange value? Or do you take the stuff back? Yeah? And then, of course, the legacy of the product. Do you want to stay in this area? And then you kind of go back, and you can do that as a single loop, or you can do it as a double loop, and that is really where you kind of decide, like, you have arrived with it, or you go again around it if you have to alter it. Yeah. So sustainable project management dictates here that the project life cycle, a product life cycle, and crucially the product's legacy phase is planned for at each stage in the project life cycle. Yeah? And then if you arrive at that level, then your overall project performance will achieve as well the benefits by implication, which is quite powerful. Organizational benefits, that is. Yeah, and only then the argument is as well, can be the project really termed truly sustainable. I have to say I've seen as well products that maybe shouldn't have been done in the first place, but we come to that in a second. Yeah. With this comes as well an environmental scope, and there's a lot of popular studies at the moment around. We really have crunched it a little bit too far in a few industries, where the environmental scope has become such a big risk that it actually kind of impacted on the company on aspects like reputation, sales numbers, or even capital loss. So in VW, it's a third of their capital has decided to leave. If you do that in a normal company, you run a small business with 2 people, and somebody decides to take 30% out, this is normally quite a hit. Not everybody survives that, to be honest. But they really are on that level, and here the environmental scope is used to kind of use it as a basis for your risk assessment. When you're planning for your risk, this is where potential aspects come from. We do that already strongly with stakeholder management, the social community. So here you have one category, then the environmental and resource unit, and then you have as well health and pollution that you may generate on your project. And the scanning for that can be very powerful. And a lot of industries, we don't necessarily do that. Shall I take some controversial examples? Let's take something simple that is maybe not so controversial. So in buildings, for example, we are very good now with the materials. Nobody wants to have recycled rubbish in concrete that you build the children nursery on. This is not okay. But then when it comes to the carpets and stuff that you put actually in the nursery, it's not so regulated. So at least in the UK. So that is unfortunately not really having thought through the whole project lifecycle. You can see that there's a clear cut construction walks off when the building is there. They don't do the interior design. Yeah. So that is a typical one where recent studies that have kind of looked at it. Actually, our nursery is good on that, so they have actually considered that. So to say something good about Northumbria. So in the nursery they got it right. So they are learning after all. We are learning. So, but it's important. Yeah. Okay, that was a construction or interior design example. There are many other aspects like that. Yeah. My other favorite examples will be pen now for the plastic bags. There are 5 pens, but in reality we have already composable bags that can be made out of mushrooms, for example. Yeah, this is a wonderful project, actually in collaboration with Newcastle University and UCL in London, and they have a beautiful product that they can mass scale it, but nobody wants a mushroom bag. So that was another consumer insight. That was not so popular. Yeah. Okay. Now with environmental risk, still here the old example. There is as well important indicator here that kind of comes directly from the most de-risk notion in projects. If you are working in economic-driven project environment, economic performance, then environmental performance has become more recently such a pressing issue that if you don't even reach compliance, you are very often very quickly out of business. So this is all over the world. In the past, you would say that there were a few nations that were kind of ambitious and wanted to make the planet a little bit healthier in their own mind. Yeah? But we have now interpretations that kind of are worldwide, and they translate straight away into risk management. So if you're not doing this, then there's something generally dangerous going on in the background. Yeah? And if you are doing good risk management, then you will as well arrive at some point at business and sustainable development, because you get a feeling for what good practice may look like. Yeah? So, and I mean, this example, does anybody know what that is?
It's like the BP rig in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes.
Deep water horizon or something.
Yeah, so it was a deep water exploration of an oil field, a very big one. Yeah, but there were 2 challenges. It was very deep in underwater, and it was as well very deep during soil layers. Yeah? So there were 2 big challenges. And the Gulf of Mexico was as well renowned for another wonderful phenomena, hurricanes. Yeah, so they had as well additional weather phenomena that made it very interesting. Yeah? So from an engineering point. Sadly, the investment in the engineering was not fully considered. Yeah? I would say, and it came actually to the catastrophe and oil spillage, and really harmed the whole industry and BP in particular, the reputation. Yeah, so some people actually even arrived at the notion of considering can a company like BP ever be sustainable? Yeah, so it became a very political topic too. But here, just this was an example to see risk can be defined as both threats and opportunities. So negative risks are categorized as threats, while positive risks are opportunities. So, and here really, with this in mind, you as a project manager can recognize that many of the environmental aspects and the impact on the projects are really project risk, both threats and opportunities. So by suggesting better strategies or precautions to potential disasters that may come from a sustainable development lens, you have a chance to actually manage it as well. So those are your opportunities to have additional gains. Yeah, the impact from poor risk management is quite substantial, of course. Now, you are already aware of that with the stakeholder management, and Michel has as well shown you some literature to this and presented a few concepts that you can use as a starting point. But when you go with a sustainable lens into the stakeholder management, you will see you have quite a substantial group of project stakeholders. And has anybody done a stakeholder consultation for like a bigger project? Like building a new mall or promoting a new power plant nearby. Or another wonderful one would be a new car design on a conference or congress, something like that. Yeah. Okay. Who has been asked in a oh, you have.
Actually, I participated in Opera House in Oman, which is building the project of the Opera University. And it's from like the landmark of Muscat capacity from Oman. So yeah, I participated in this project as interior designer, some of the lighting aspects of it.
Very good. How was the consultation? Were people like, yay, let's consult?
Yeah, actually, it's a very huge project, and I was at the first time of the project. I was just a trainer. It's my first 3 months of that. They're gonna to accept me the project or not. So I just involved in the part of testing the lighting, how it's working, the things, and.
But did you go as well to the consultation?
I didn't get the consultancy. Just were choosing some of the companies of the lighting. I don't it is we are gonna to choose this company or the other company or.
Okay, so part of the bidding and like.
Bidding and
Okay, this is not what I mean by consultation, but it's as well consultation. The consultation that I talk about is if you do actually a local consultation. Yeah. So, for example, if you build a Tyne tunnel here, we had that recently. It's our newest tunnel here, connecting kind of North Shields and South Shields, more or less, give or take. It's Jarrow and I think it is North Shield, right? This is like okay, it gets ambiguous with a terminology. When we had the consultation, most people that turned up came because they were furious. How can you build a new tunnel? This is terrible. The flora and fauna from the Tyne will be destroyed. So the project managers were like, what are you on about? We don't even hit the river, it's beneath. Yeah, and then, no, we know already there's an open cast system planned. This will destroy the river and the natural habitat there. Yeah, other people were furious. All these people from South Shields are going to travel now through North Shields. We will have traffic jams. It's terrible. I can't drive in 10 minutes to work anymore. Yeah, I have to leave the place in Tynemouth and move closer to Newcastle to be able to walk to Northumbria. Yeah, so there were a lot of stakeholders like this. All I'm saying is communication may not be pleasant on that level, but you become aware. And as well, here in the Tyne tunnel, they started monitoring for the flora and fauna. They found a lot of organisms that they thought are not in the Tyne actually, which was surprising. And they monitored it very closely, and they could show an intense rainfall over a certain waste recycling plant that burned had a lot more impact environmentally with rainwater than the whole tunnel project, because they monitored for it. And they planned it up front, and it showed they won as well a prize for being a sustainable project. Yeah? So the point again is they had a huge opportunity here that they enabled, and this came from the stakeholders. You may not see it yourself, but an outreach activity like this can really benefit. Yeah? But again, this is kind of bottom up, and you have to listen as well to the polemic. Don't fall in the trap of defending, like, no, this is a great project. Yeah? Take all the features down and say, like, we are going to address this. We have a look at this. Yeah? Now, there are different types of sustainable projects, and yeah, I have to agree. This comes from literature. I don't really agree with the first one, but this is really green by definition, and green by definition is the project substantially tries to achieve sustainable development. Yeah. Why it is an offshore wind farm in that book, I'm not quite sure. I don't really know. But this is debatable. Yeah? So the idea, I guess, is that you move from fossil fuels and don't burn them anymore, but instead build wonderful carbon plates with them and put them offshore. No, okay, that was my silly moment. No, but so basically it means the project is by definition green. Yeah? You're really trying to do sustainable development here. Yeah? Did you have another project maybe that you recognize as such? What could that be? So green by definition, a project. Yeah, so for example, a recycling plant, yeah, where you use from the nearby for example, landfill site, you recycle the aggregates and reuse it, and you diminish the landfill site by that. So this would be green by definition. Does that make sense? Or, what I prefer as an engineer, you build a zero carbon house, or passive energy house. That would be so for houses, for example, or in there are a lot of applications. So there may be green by definition. Then green by project impact. This is the project is actually trying to improve. So again, this book is a little bit controversial. They don't like cars because they think this is like burning bent soils that come out of the ground. And the electric cars is kind of improving it. So you have made yourself open to different energy sources. That means you don't rely on one single source only. And you can even use it as a smart grid if you advance to it. That is at least their key. Then green by product impact. So that is where it actually worked. This is a police station in North Tyneside, if I remember correctly. I think it's Silverlink actually. Yeah. Is it possible? Oh, okay. Maybe I'm off a little bit. Yeah. So it's a local example, and they designed the building to be energy efficient. They wanted to have smart lighting, so kind of what we tried there, and then we didn't buy the entrance. So they're close to win that prize, but they actually did it, and they didn't aim for it. They just wanted a wonderful conceptual building, and they won actually a building prize here in the UK. So and they were surprised by it because they didn't see that coming. That was just the design team that had thought it through, and they wanted a smart building. They wanted healthy rooms where people can work and focus, where the lighting is thought through and the interior is thought through. So conceptually, that was green by product impact. So it's still a building, there's still a few resources.
It's not started as a green building, but at the end they're attempting to end with a smart building, but it's...
Yeah, so if you look at the design, I have the case study as well in the book chapter that I've cut out for you. The intention is really a new police station, to have people kind of do administration jobs and office space where they can work. And the design was meant to be a positive workspace, because in the past they had issues with it. And it became actually renowned as a green building, so they won a prize, and that came a little bit as a surprise because they didn't really pitch for it. But I mean, green by product impact is more that you consider sustainability in your product. So you could even argue, so by product impact, you could say that maybe electric cars nowadays have a similar impact. So they kind of replace a sphere of maybe fossil fuel cars versus alternative energy resources. But it's a slim argument, so it's an interpretation game. And we have to get our head around that. And then we have as well green in general. Now this is more the recognition that each project or each operation can be done in a green way. You can look at efficiency, you can consider the social impact, and this is even true for a controversial example because I've as well worked with them. So for example, BAE Systems down the road, they built Amphi vehicle. I think it's described as such. If you look at so it's basically like vehicles that have a chain and move quite quickly in different terrains. And they won recently a prize for like being sustainable in their operations. But the big question is, if you build tanks, is it really sustainable? Can a tank ever be sustainable? This is a big question. It can be camouflaged, it looks a little bit like nature, but it's not the same. So, but in operations, they won the first prize. So, so from that point, they have certainly their project management and program delivery. They have green operations, and they are very efficient, and they're very considerate as well with storage. They have very little leakage of any substances that could leak in plants like that. But again, there may be other issues. So there's this right question, and this is where BP fed in. Yeah, they tried really a strong effort after the spill to say like, hey, wait a minute, we actually can get it right, we can have green operations. There was a big outcry and said like, how can BP as a oil company ever be green? Yeah? But this is again literature, and we have to get a little bit the feeling of that. Yeah? Now, respectively, we have as well the impact on you as a project manager. Yeah? So green by definition, focus is on sustainability. Yeah? It's kind of in your project brief. It's in the scope. It's well, if you buy in, it's quite straightforward. Now then there is green in general. Here, green role of PM. Here's as well an education part. So here you will battle as well. Yeah? Here you will have to fight for saying, like, hey, wait a minute, look at actually running the business school. Yeah? We want the engines. Yeah? This makes it a functional building. We have energy savings. It pays off after 3 years. And we have guarantees on the engines. Even if they break down, no additional cost. Yeah? So there are implications there. Okay, so this is kind of our spin-off, and we have to get our head around, do we have green projects, of course, and what can we do as a project manager? We do that in the seminar. But today we covered project management, important, no worry. Yeah, this is granted. Sustainable development is well important, but traditionally defined project management may be incompatible with some of the principles of sustainable development. Yeah? And we see as well that constraint in some industries. So if you go, for example, with BAE System example, we can have a look at that. They built as well beautiful submarines. I'm particularly keen on that because they have surface technology that is mind-blowing. But if you look at it, they have really tried to get the act together, but can be products like that or services like that actually be sustainable? That's a big question. And then sustainable project management offers a new perspective that places sustainability principles at the heart of project management processes, and that is what we want to look in detail at as well in the seminars and in the following sessions. And any questions? Observations? It was what? Okay, so police station was ended. Is this like Silverlink, right?
No, it's Cobalt. It's the other side. Well, it's technically middle of it. Which is next to Battle Hill, so I would have thought
Yeah. So it's left of Silverlink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walls End.
Okay. So Walls End, if you want to see it live, yeah? Okay. Thank you very much.